But she only comes when she's on time.
Oh,
Oh, you think you're so pretty.
nice. I haven't drank enough to hit those notes yet. Hold on. Give me an hour.
Yeah, look at all that red I just created. And welcome to the Say Report. I'm your host, Devon Decker, and joining me, a couple of beats behind, Sejohn.
In life? What are we doing?
No, just on the song. I'd like to think we're calibrated and back on track now. As we
After the fight last week? No, yeah, we're fine.
And if you're confused as to why Laid by Matt Nathanson is what we were singing in the beginning, you obviously haven't heard our very special episode for April 2019, in which we wished a happy anniversary 3 months early to American Pie. La, la, la.
Yeah, so go check it out. It was one of the good ones. There's not many episodes of this show I'll recommend, but I'll recommend that one.
Oh, I've listened to it twice. I'm not going to lie to you. It was fun to talk about American Pie.
Yeah.
It was.
We
so
should not do
fun.
it again. We can't. Yeah, we should not do it again.
It was so fun. In fact, what I did today when I got home from work is watch the DVD copy of Boys and Girls that I bought off Amazon.
Nice.
Because I wanted to live in that movie again. And Allison Hannigan, also in that film, as
Nice.
Freddie Prinze Jr.'s high school sweetheart, and Amanda Detmer as Claire Forlani's friend, who eventually winds up with Jason Biggs.
That movie is made entirely by, like, friends being friends, right? Like,
one would imagine. It's by the director of She's All That. Which is just the moment where I'm like,
well,
okay,
yeah. And I was gonna say, that's also a very Freddie Prinze Jr. thing. He hit it real big, real early, and it's actually pretty chill. From that point on, he was just like, I'm just gonna produce a bunch of movies for me and Matthew Lillard to be in, like,
right. And it's weird that Matthew Lillard is too busy with Scream to be in Boys and Girls. So he's like, yeah, that Jason Biggs guy fucked a pie. Let's bring him in.
Let's carry him in. But they had done Wing Commander already by that point, right? Like,
yes,
him
Wing
and
Commander.
Willard,
Wing
right?
Commander had happened before that.
Yeah.
So
but then they get back together for Summer Catch, or is that before or after Scooby?
Summer Catch is before Scooby. Yes, mathematically, I believe that's right. Yeah. I could be wrong. My focus was on Jason Biggs' filmography because it goes American Pie to Boys and Girls, where he appears with Allison Hannigan and Amanda Detmer. Then he does Loser, in which he appears again with his like co-star of American Pie, Mina Savari. And then he does Saving Silverman, where he winds up with a girl played by Amanda Detmers. Like, it's so incestuous. Like, those 4 Jason Biggs movies.
Yeah, but I think, you know what it is we must have touched on this before, the incestuous nature of comedy films, right? And I think part of that comes from the fact that, like, you need to be comfortable with the people around you when you're doing that kind of work, like, hugely comfortable with the people around you for some of that stuff, you know, and like, it doesn't surprise me that there was this group of, like, teens that were really into all of this, doing these comedies. But it's no different than every time you see a Seth Rogen movie and you know half the dudes that are going to be in it without ever hearing, like, the cast, right?
Yeah, but really, that's just because Seth Rogen took all of his buddies from Freaks and Geeks and was like, be in movies with me. Be in movies with me.
So what we're saying is one of us has to hit it big so that the other one can just ride its coattails.
Yeah, the problem is that the big problem is that both of us are kind of waiting on the other one to hit it big. It feels like. Though, to be fair, when you coughed and said my name under your breath, I'm like, I'm not surprised that would be if the secret cabal of Say reporters got together and was like, so we nominate Devon in secret to be the one whose coattails we ride.
To be the one that has to do all the work, yeah.
and do the work I do. Honestly, it's been a while since we've recorded. Excuse me, talk.
Yeah, this has been yeah. The other thing about last week is I don't want to apologize for this because it was a fantastic episode we dropped, but you'll note that we did a bit of a time capsule last week. So hi, Will, from the past to the past. Um, but yeah, so it's been a couple of weeks since the two of us have gotten together, and there's been some things in the world that like we felt we needed to touch on, things that oddly we feel like we don't need to yet, and things that maybe you weren't ready for.
And things that I've been sitting here like a kid who got a toy on Christmas wanting to share with you, but I've just been denied at every turn.
Yeah, he's been waiting at the computer for 2 weeks. Don't get me wrong. This has not been because of lack of Devon wanting to. I've just been letting him sweat.
Yeah, that's not. It's totally my fault too. It's my. I'm gonna go hang out in Connecticut, and that's going to. I thought I was just going for breakfast, and then I crawled into my house at 11 o'clock at night. I'm going out for breakfast with my friends in Connecticut. Be back around noon. This is not noon. I apologize.
I just watched a movie where Connecticut was like, oh, we'll talk about it. I've been getting into some Netflix romantic teen comedies.
Oh, jeez.
But Dev, you've been sitting here waiting, as I said, at the microphone. So what do you got?
I beat Metroid, like
Ooh.
the original Metroid on NES.
Like first time ever, or like is this
first time ever?
Oh,
because
dang.
I beat The Adventure of Link, the second Zelda game. And that's a game that I'm like, I'm never going to beat this game ever. It's just never going to happen. And then I beat it. So I'm like, what other games have I looked at and thought, I'm never going to beat this game? And it's kind of hard to not see Metroid like screaming at me from the top of that list. So I sat down and I played through Metroid. I had a little bit of a guide, like, because there's no map in that game. And everything looks the same. So I had like just a basic this is like points of interest sort of map that I used the first time I went through it. And then I went to hang out with my friend Lance, who he and his girlfriend had their child. So Lance is now a father.
Oh, so
congratulations to Lance. Probably the last time hanging out with him for some time. Not upset about that, right? It's just that like new babies, they mess with your life a little bit.
Right.
You have to learn the schedule. I mean, that's what Superstore's taught me. I've also been catching up on Superstore, but that's a story for another time. And I was sitting at Lance's, and he was playing through Mega Man, the first Mega Man, or Mega Man 3. One of the ones that I would consider a weaker Mega Man game. But he also recently got a bigger TV and set up a tiny TV in the corner with the NES Classic. So I'm like, all right, this time, no guide. I'm going to see if I can get through Metroid. So I just went ahead and beat Metroid a second time. So Friday I beat Metroid, Saturday I beat Metroid, and then Sunday, Easter Sunday, I was sitting with these friends who I thought I was just going to have breakfast with, and then I ended up leaving their house at like 10 at night.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm going to play Metroid if that's okay with everybody. And they were all about it. Like, oh my God, I've never seen someone actually know how to play Metroid.
Know how?
Like, yes, please play Metroid. Like, they were all about it. So I played through Metroid at these people's house, and I got all the way to the final Mother Brain fight, and one more hit would have killed it. But I was playing on a Raspberry Pi, which has a bunch of hotkeys setups that I was not aware of.
Oh.
And if you hit down and select at the same time, it resets the game.
Oh no! Oh God, that hurt. What?
So I'm there, and I just like went to switch from my ice beam because you're freezing like stuff, so you can't get hurt, to the missiles, and I hit down and select at the same time and reset the game. And like as I've sat down with the people that I was playing the game with, and I'm like, what would you consider my completion rate on Metroid? Like, because I was at, like, 83%, and they're like, no, you were at, like, 99%. Like, the boss was about to die, and you reset the game, and you don't use save states. So I'm like, oh, yeah, okay. So I beat it 99% of the way on Easter Sunday, And then on Monday, just to be different, I beat it again. So in a 4-day cycle, I beat Metroid 3.99 times.
Fantastic.
And I can
Man,
now do it. Like, it's just in my head, as ridiculous as that sounds.
that's awesome, man.
I will never play the
Congratulations.
randomizer of Metroid, though. Because there's just too many missile packs that are completely unnecessary in that game.
What
Because...
what is the Metroid that is mixed with the randomizer Link?
What do
Is
you
it that
mean?
Metroid?
No. So there are two. There
Right.
is Link to the Past that is mixed with Super Metroid.
Super Metroid.
And
Okay.
then because of that, there already was a randomizer of the original Legend of Zelda and the original Metroid on NES, and not to be outdone by their Super Nintendo like big brothers or younger brothers, they're like, we can do that too. And the community built a combo randomizer of Legend of Zelda and Metroid. But both of those games just have so many hidden areas that even though I've beaten those games multiple times, I still have not been everywhere in either of those games.
Well, I mean, original Zelda. Oh God, man, I can't even fathom how you would figure out if you had been everywhere. There's like talk about a game that looks similar everywhere you go, and on top of that, the hidden entrances and exits. So like walk into this wall, and oh look at that, it's not actually a wall. Fuck that noise.
Yeah, exactly. Like I 100% know that there's parts of Death Mountain, the final dungeon in Legend of Zelda, that I have never been to. Because I learned the proper route through that dungeon and was like, I'm never going to deviate from you. Why would I?
Yeah, yeah.
But
Shit, man.
but yeah, so that. But also in the original Metroid, this is just a little bit, and then I swear we'll move past it. But I have been bursting with this. I wanted to record with you as soon as I did it because I couldn't believe that I did it. When you beat Kraid and Ridley in Metroid, you're given your missile capacity goes up 75 missiles, and they give you 75 missiles. It's not like your capacity goes up and then you have to like collect up to that. No. Your victory is 75 missiles, and you can hold 75 more missiles.
Damn.
And if you have the screw attack before you fight Ridley, first of all, I fight Ridley before Kraid, which like everyone says is wrong. But the screw attack can kill Ridley, so it doesn't matter that I have 5 missiles going into the Ridley fight.
Right.
Because I kill it with the screw attack, and I'm like, oh, finally, now I have missiles. Thank you, game. Like, I've already started optimizing it. That's how good a game it is once you understand the, like, peculiarities of it.
Yeah, man, that's so cool. I cannot wait to hear more about this. Maybe this will become the Link to the Past of 2019.
Probably not. I don't know what will become the Link to the Past of 2019. In fact, I feel a little odd that I'm like that right now. I just keep finding new challenges to face, but that's for a little bit after. I'd like you to share some stuff before I go onto the new frontiers I've begun to conquer.
Yeah, man. No, there's not been too much going on. You know, we've kind of hit after Easter. It's been pretty steadily busy with like work and stuff. It's pretty crazy right now. There's a bunch of like weird stuff going on with Netflix. I don't know if anybody's been paying attention to like things getting canceled and everybody trying to figure out what's going on, and like I don't have answers. Everybody needs to stop calling me Mom, Dad, Zach. Like, I don't know what's going on with half the stuff out there. But we saw over the past couple of months, we saw the loss of One Day at a Time, as well as now as of yesterday, Santa Clarita Diet. And I mean, by all accounts, pretty popular shows, or at least well liked by the people watching them.
Also, Friends from College got canceled, and I cried a little bit.
Friends from College. I didn't realize it was even a series that merited a second season, but yep.
Well, you know, if there was no second season, it would have been fine. But that second season expanded the universe a lot, and I cannot believe I enjoy Friends from College. Is what I say every time. But I can go off on like crazy tributaries for those characters and my feelings regarding them.
Yeah.
But just be honest.
Yeah, so Netflix has been kind of going through and giving the axe to a bunch of stuff. I mean, not least of which the entire Marvel deal that it had with Disney.
I
And
kind of feel like
everybody,
Disney was on the
yeah,
trigger end of that one.
I was gonna say that the narrative when it happened at the time was that Disney and Marvel like did not do it. That Netflix was the one that pulled the plug. But I think every day it becomes more and more obvious with a lot of the crap that they've been doing, with especially Disney with the release of the app stuff that they put out, right? That they're definitely the ones that put the pull plug on that shit, right? Like they're like, no, we will have the Marvel shows because they've already got two lined up. I don't know, man.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, that's the other thing. The Disney app came out in the last couple of weeks. I'll have a bunch of information about
Well, it
that.
didn't
Although I'm
come
sure
out.
that
It doesn't come out
no,
until
no, no,
November, which
no. But
is
the
insanity.
yeah,
That
but
would,
the information about it released.
yeah.
Yeah, and but I'm sure that Zach and Dale are going to go into it a lot more on Junior because that is Zach's bag through and
That is
through.
Zach's bags through and through. And I'll say it right here, will not be a member of Disney Plus.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, you were saying.
straight there, because in all of the announcements that they've made, they said that Song of the South is not going to go on there. And I get it. I completely get it. Don't deal in absolutes in your original press release, is what I'm going to say. Don't say all the Disney classics will be available, because then people will be like, oh, so does that include this movie that's never had a re release and won Best Song in 1943? And is
America.
the basis for one of your most popular attractions, an attraction so popular that you refuse to shut it down to give it a facelift so that it no longer references Song of the South? I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I wasn't. That didn't surprise me, and that is not the reason why I'm saying I will not be taking advantage of Disney Plus, as amazing as it looks. Like, this is one where I'm like, I am upset that I need to stand. I can't say that I won't go to Showcase because they have censored the showing of a film because of something controversial. And then Disney, just because I want their product far more than I want the product at Showcase Cinema, I can ignore that they're going to censor Dumbo and completely remove the crow scene.
I mean, I can. So,
what do you mean?
I can definitely do both of those things. That's I've got no qualms. I
No,
don't
I
have to ever step
understand
foot in
that.
the Showcase again, and I will wholeheartedly pay for a Disney app.
Right,
So,
exactly. But you're like, it's. I don't want to be selective, because
yeah,
I feel like that's the hardest thing when you're trying to be like a protester or proactive, or like bring light to something. Is
sure,
like,
man.
yeah, I'll let it slide on this one, but I have to be adamant here. It's just a slippery slope.
Well,
Like,
yeah, and in the interest of being fair, like the I agree with you to the point where they had other options. You know, why not offer an edited version that like maybe is only viewable on children's accounts, but like on a larger version, which is exactly how Netflix handles. You know, you can have a kids account and you can just say don't put certain titles on there, and then offer like the adult level, where I guess older teen level, where you do have just the unedited version of that movie. Like I applaud the idea. I like for all the shit they've been given over the last 60 years about the way that they've portrayed people, characters, and stereotypes and all the like. I applaud the idea that there is somebody there making steps forward, but I do agree that there are missteps in that can be taken, and things like not letting Song of the South be on there is a perfect example of, like you said, like not having that on there makes total sense. But then to turn around and be like, we're going to edit this movie and put it up and not give you any access to the unedited version, that rubs me the wrong way.
yeah, and that's exactly it. And again, if when it comes down further the line that it might just be exactly what you described, that we're going to offer an edited version for those parents who don't want their children exposed to that. But I also think of Dumbo as kind of the Disney movie that elevated Disney. I know that's like a crazy thing to say, but
I mean, because history will tell you it's Snow White, but okay, yeah, let's keep
well,
going.
no. But Snow White was the first one, right?
Right.
So it's one of those things where Snow White is the first animated feature, and it has a huge moment in animated history, right? And then they
Right.
follow that up with Pinocchio, and then Fantasia, and then Dumbo comes along, and Dumbo is the one that I've heard the most talk about from film scholars in terms of what the movie accomplished in what it did, especially the fact that like it tells a complete story in like 64 minutes.
Yeah.
It's I don't know. I think I've read a lot of books on Disney filmmaking and like film people looking at it, and Dumbo is often the one that they point at as this is when we knew Disney was something to be watching, and that everything they could do, because the other three were like sort of ambitious projects, and then Dumbo comes along and it is the same level considering where it came from and how it related to the zeitgeist before it was an animated feature.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it is a big important movie. I mean, we are sitting in a year in which it was so important that they had Tim Burton remake it. Like, clearly, the Disney has some love for it and some appreciation for it, and fans do as well. So that's exactly it. Is to say that we're gonna cut this movie up, and like I said, I applaud the idea. Like the concept behind what they're trying to do is sound. But I thought that I was one of the few people that seemed to not mind that they were really kind of cleaning things up for the Tim Burton version this year. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong in that, but it felt like there were some people out there that were a little turned off by the fact that things were not going to be in this version. But I was very much like no, that's the way you do it. Like you don't go back to the old one and fuck it up like we're talking about here with the app. Like what you do is you bring it into the new in new ways with new things to replace the old issued pieces, right? And so I don't know, man. I felt like they had already made good on Dumbo,
and that's
with the Tim Burton
I'm
thing.
really happy that you're the one who brought that up, because Endgame happened, right? I'm not going to shy away from it, and I ladybirded into Endgame.
Mm-hmm.
And the movie that was playing before Endgame was Dumbo, the Tim Burton one. So I've
Nice.
now seen that movie twice, where most of America hasn't even seen it once.
Mm-hmm.
And it's stuff that I noticed the first time through, but then watching it after the news that they were going to edit out this part of the original film, I watched it with like a bit of a more critical eye towards that. And the most iconic line from that scene, I've seen a horsefly, I've seen a dragonfly, I've seen a housefly, but will believe when you see an elephant fly. That is said in the movie. That is said by an announcer trying to get people excited for Dumbo under
Nice.
the big top. So like they don't shy away from it. And then the like credit song is an instrumental version of When I See an Elephant Fly. So it's like you honored the parts of that film that are iconic and that people know, but in a way that wasn't offensive.
Yeah.
Though, as Dale pointed out, people could be upset that that ring announcer is a white man and call it whitewashing of a formerly black character.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
that's a stretch, but she's also like, I'm just devil's advocating, where like,
no. I mean, it's an idea.
yeah, and I think that's all
won't-
she was trying to make. But it's just
Yeah.
like, why would you
put
introduce
a
that
value
into
on
the
it.
world?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, man, that's exactly it though. Is I felt like they had done their make good with Dumbo. I felt like they had taken their steps to correct the issues that they had in the past, and even to that point, we didn't talk much about it last year, but I fucking loved the new Mary Poppins movie, like legitimately. I still listen to the soundtrack when I clean the house and shit. Like,
I haven't
um,
seen it. That's the only issue, is that it came out in a really difficult time for me to get out to the cinema.
Yeah, well, it was thoroughly enjoyable. Like, and in that, there's things that Mary Poppins had been called out for in its time. Not nearly as drastic as like Song of the South. Never mind Dumbo, right? But there were some things that had been called out for that were beautifully alluded to and handled in this one in terms of like class and stuff like that. And it was just again, it felt like Disney had been making so many good steps that hearing this one weird misstep, for lack of a better term, for what we consider it, right? At least you and me. Like, yeah, I don't know where that idea ends.
The
You're right.
craziest part about it is I don't know how you get rid of that scene, because like context, Dumbo gets drunk, Pink Elephants on Parade happens, and he wakes up in a tree. The first time that he flies in the original Dumbo, he is drunk and he does not know how he did it.
Right.
And that's when he meets the crows. They see when I see an elephant fly, and he's given his magic feather by one of them. So it's not.
I wonder if they cut it out completely, or if there's just tactful editing so that like maybe the song is gone and there's just a moment of handing the feather. But you're right. Like, how do you do it? Because that is the moment when he gets the feather.
Like, it's a big story beat. So there's this other part of me that is just like curious as to how do you work around that?
Yeah.
Because that's like at the 50-minute mark of a 64-minute long movie, the song happens, he gets the feather, he flies again, and then it's the credits song, which is a reprise of When I See an Elephant Fly. So
yeah, man, it'll be weird. I don't know. Yeah, so there's been some weird stuff going on in the world of like streaming and movies and stuff, and so Netflix is not the only one in this weird boat of everybody like giving it the side eye now, wondering what's going on with it. You know, like the Disney and stuff was a weird announcement. DC just shutting down production on a bunch of stuff that it had put advertisements out for.
Yeah.
And just walking in the room and just being like, nah, never mind. And it's like, what are you doing? You're cutting your own app off at its knees. Like this is ridiculous. So we'll see what's going to happen there, especially because you and I have to talk some DC app.
We have some DC app stuff to talk about as we wrap up this episode. But we're still in the mid game. So
yeah.
that's.
But no, the only other thing that I've been up to is getting it back into what Netflix is bringing to the table. Like that's really what this is all leading to. Is like, you know, with all the stuff that's been getting cut and left and right and what we've been losing, people seem to be losing sight of some really interesting stuff that Disney's been doing. That Netflix has been doing lately. It's not long until it's one and the same, but you know what I mean.
I mean, there was a long time where I thought that Disney was going to try to buy Netflix.
Yeah. Well, and I almost wonder if they tried, and if Netflix wasn't game for it, and if that's what kind of.
Well, I think it's a little from A, a little from B. I think that Disney had a choice to focus on getting Fox or getting Netflix, and they went for the bigger game and succeeded. But then I think that in doing so, they alienated themselves from Netflix a little bit, affected that relationship, so that when it came time to go back to the table, Netflix was like, no, we don't want you to buy us.
Yeah, man. I also think that people always kind of, and this is not just because I work for them, like people always kind of just underestimate sometimes Netflix's business acumen. You know, there's always been these moments when people have laughed at them. I mean, the most famous of which is Blockbuster laughing them out the door for movie delivery service, right? And streaming being a thing that would never happen. And now look at that, right? And so there is this idea that I feel like Netflix sees which way the wind is blowing on a couple of things and is being kind of smart in what it does. And people are just getting nervous, you know, because they're seeing their favorite shows get canceled. They're seeing their favorite actors and actresses that like being told no, which they're not used to. And you know, in this particular day and age, you know, for the last 10 years, if an actor had some fucking pull behind them, they could walk into a room and just say, I want to make a project. What service wants to stream it? And there'd be like 5 or 6, you know, services like chomping at the bit, bidding on them to get them, you know, whatever project they wanted off the ground. And I think that Netflix is the first one of those services to be in a position to finally say no to things. And so the Marvel stuff is interesting. I mean, here we are post Endgame, and now Netflix does not have to worry about the future of Marvel. They're like the only ones in the world right now that have nothing to lose if Marvel decides to just not go anywhere, you know, after this. Like there's just so much that they've been able to like protect themselves from in that way. So I don't know. We'll see. So I've been watching a whole bunch of weird new stuff that Netflix has been just kind of quietly putting out on the down low, including this entire genre of film that they've decided to step into, which is the like teen romance comedy. Like they've put out maybe 5 in the last year.
Jesus.
I've only seen like 3. It's crazy because they've really upped their originals game, right? Like that's what's happened over the last year. So that's not surprising that there's more and more of this stuff coming out. But this particular genre is like perfect fodder for this. And I don't know why nobody else is doing it. I mean, you have a product, Netflix, that is loved by a certain sect of the community that all that they do is consume teens. Like, of course, this is what they should be gearing all of their shit towards. And so so I've gotten really into this like weird world that they've created, especially because they keep kind of going back to the same well on a bunch of stuff. Within the last 3 months, I want to say, there have been two, no less than two, Cyrano de Bergerac teen comedy remakes put on Netflix.
And
It's
not
like,
whatever it takes.
and not whatever it takes. No.
What a weird movie that is. Is that young James Franco in Whatever It Takes?
Man, no. See, now I'm just thinking of Roxanne, which is Steve Martin. No, who is it in Whatever It Takes? I can't remember
I feel
now.
like James Franco is one of them. I feel like
Maybe.
James Franco is the bad boy that he's like acting as Cyrano for his next door best friend who's a girl.
Shane West. Shane West
Is the main guy.
is the main guy.
And
Hold
I
on,
think
wait a
the
minute.
other
We're gonna
guy
do
is
this.
James
We have the
Franco.
internet. It is totally James Franco.
Yeah, okay. I knew Shane West too, but that's not who we were talking about. I was talking about, and then I like Maria Sokov. Is that her name? She was like the cheerleader who gave them the alibi and sugar and spice.
Yeah, Marla Sokolov?
Marla
Maria?
Sokolov, yeah,
Marla
Sokolov.
Marla Sokolov, yeah.
Yep.
And Jodie Lynn O'Keefe. Man. You're not
That's a
watching Whatever It
movie
Takes.
I saw in theaters with my parents, and it was one of those movies where like American Pie came out, so we need to make everything like American Pie. So there's just like a 6 foot tall penis in the opening scene, and it also totally steals the pool scene from It's a Wonderful Life. Which, here's a question I didn't get to ask you during our American Pie episode that I am going to follow back at now that I'm thinking about that. Did you have your prom at your high school, or did you go off-site?
It was off-site.
Yeah, okay. I can't think of a single prom that I've ever been associated with that wasn't off-site.
The only reason why I think it might actually be for them is you've got to keep in mind what we talked about them being in this very white privileged neighborhood. That legitimately might be the nicest facility. Like, it didn't necessarily look the nicest because I think that set design was not maybe top of the priority list on American Pie, shall we say.
Well, no, I think it's also supposed to be a point. Like, they said that they wanted that prom to look as awful as possible.
Oh, well, there you go.
That was the point. They're like, we didn't want it to be opulent. We picked Arabian Nights because it was literally the worst prom theme we could think of, and then we kind of phoned it in from there. and part of that is exactly what you just said. They come from this affluent neighborhood, so the prom doesn't matter. The party afterwards matters.
Yeah, and that's the big thing where they go to the lake house. So, yeah.
But it was one of those things where you guys have a clock tower, for God's sakes, at your high school. I thought that maybe you would have had to prom in your gymnasium.
No. None of that nonsense. No, man. White's on the Patuxent. Shit, man. Memories.
Memories.
So in the last year, I've watched 3 different Netflix teen romance comedies that all have one particular actor in them. And it's funny that we talked about the whole like Freddie Prinze Jr., Jason Biggs, Freddie Prinze Jr., like the way that these kind of groups stick together thing, because we have found the dude that Netflix is hanging their hat on. This is the kid. This is the guy that they want to be the next, like I was going to say Ryan Reynolds. That works too, but Ryan Gosling is what I meant. And that dude, I'm never going to say his last name right. Noah Centineo. I think I'm saying it correct.
I know that. I know that name.
Did you ever watch The Fosters?
No.
That was the big show that he did. Like, he did stuff before that, and he's done a lot since. But The Fosters, which was that like 4-season running show on Freeform, all about like the family with like 84 foster kids. He played the older brother on that. So it was like his seventh heaven.
To Shazam?
The better version of Shazam, yeah. but he's the older brother in that series. I think older brother. I might be misremembering the exact. But that movie, that show is weird because they're not actually siblings. But anyway, um, so they've been kind of like roping him in, and the first one that I think he showed up in, if I'm doing this correctly, is "To All the Boys I've Loved Before." Do you know anything about this story?
No, I don't, but I do know
Yeah.
the song "To All the Girls I've Loved Before," and it's 13 Ghosts of Scooby Doo parody. To all the ghouls I've loved before.
Jesus. How did that happen twice on this show? Um,
Oh, I
it was
guess maybe
it was
don't bring up that song, and it will never happen again. Continue. Sorry.
oh my God. It was the big Netflix movie last year that made a bit of a splash because it was hugely popular because it featured an Asian American lead. And she is phenomenal in it. And then, it's a really stock standard but super well done romance story. It's all about a girl that wants to make a guy jealous, so she goes out with this douchebag, and then she ends up falling for the douchebag. Like there's a better hook than that to it. It's actually really cute. She through her life writes these like love letters to boys but refuses to send them because like she doesn't want to be weird or anything, so she keeps them in a box and then somehow they get
The
out,
box
and that's
gets out. I
yeah.
know.
So
I
it's
wrote Who's in Love with Chris Daly. I wrote a teen love comedy. We
right.
don't need to
Yeah.
explain a letter somehow getting out. That was my inciting action.
Yeah. So and so like I said, really cute, right? And he plays the douchebag in it, and of course she ends up falling for him instead, and life is happily ever after, right? But he also ends up in one of the Cyrano de Bergerac remakes as the cute guy. That and then the latest one that he just put out is called The Perfect Date, and it came out just a couple
Oh,
of
I
months
saw
ago.
previews for that, and it looked like he sells himself to be whatever the girl needs.
Yeah,
It
exactly. The whole
reminded me
idea
of
is
I can't remember what it reminded me of. I think it's an episode of American Dad where Steve agrees to go out with these girls as like the beard, so that the parents think like, oh, he's going out with Steve Smith. He's a good guy, and
right.
then they're really going out with dudes who are not good
I
guys.
well, and I gotta say that it's actually a really good role for him because it lets him do the whole like John Leguizamo style like character acting going on. And I only say that role specifically because there was straight up a scene in this movie, The Perfect Date, where the entire time in the back of my head I was like, shit, I should watch The Pest again.
I should watch The Pest again for the first time
Oh man.
because I love that opening song so much. And as much as I watch What's the Worst That Could Happen for Danny DeVito and Martin Lawrence, John Leguizamo is a close third.
Yeah. I mean, yes. Shit. Just thinking of that movie now and oh my God, we should watch The Pest. All right, anyway.
You're in charge of June.
Excellent. Yeah, so he gets to do this weird, awesome thing that it's really rare for an actor, never mind a teen actor, to get to do, where you play this role where you're expected to, from time to time, dip into other characters. Short of like a Mike Myers movie, or like you don't really get to see. You don't get to see narratively an excuse for your main actor to kind of stretch his wings a little bit, and he does awesome. Like he does perfectly well. He's totally serviceable, more than serviceable as this like sexy male lead. It's very interesting because a year ago I didn't realize what was happening, and I feel like this is really cool getting to watch Netflix kind of like birth this particular style of actor and movie, because the streaming teen romance comedy I feel is like going to become a genre unto itself. So we'll see where it goes from there. But that's what I've been doing a lot this week is watch that movie, realize that I had now watched 3 movies with this kid in it, then realize that Nick, man, why can't I remember the damn company I work for, that Netflix had put out a bunch of these movies this year, and I've gone back over them and been thoroughly impressed by actually kind of each and every one of them. So it's interesting to see where they are putting their money in a time when everybody's really focusing on where they're pulling it. Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. So I guess it's that time. Last September, I believe it was the September 10th episode entitled California, Jimmy Woods. I talked to you about Frag.
Okay.
and the event that Dale and I competed at the Retro World Expo in Hartford, Connecticut. And this past weekend, I attended another Frag event. Now, I will completely own the fact that as we talked about the experience last September, we had some criticism of how it was run, right? I don't
Yeah.
think that you would deny that.
Sorry, I
Um,
don't want to put too much of my own 2 cents in here because I don't want to lead you anywhere.
no, and that's completely fine. And feel free to put sense in. I own my opinions and all of that, and I do. But what I will say is, there was part of me last September was like, I'm not going to do another one of these events, right? But I made friends at the first event that I attended a year ago in April of 2018, and that those friendships mean a lot to me because, you know, they've given me a whole new group of people who are actually like local. It's not like my best friend in Utah or my best friend in Australia. It's my friends who are 40 minutes away in Norwich, Connecticut.
You're here, man.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
not that I love you or will any less, but it's nice to
feel
have
it.
a person to
I've
go
grown
get some
weaker.
beer with. I grow weaker. And when they're like, "Are we doing frag?" I'm like, I don't know. And they're like, "Shut the fuck up. We're doing frag." So it was one of those. I guess I really don't have a choice because these guys want to go. I'll go.
Yeah.
So I spent my Saturday at Fragcon 2019, and I have to say, a lot of our criticism actually was listened to and folded into the event, which was
Interesting.
kind of cool. Rather than have it like segmented, every game was available right from the start, and you could play scores the entire time. And there was no life system. You could play the games as many times as you wanted in an effort to increase your score.
That's awesome. That's fantastic.
Yeah, and it was like, and it felt much more like an event than it did a year ago. And that was a very, very cool to like see how this event is growing and listening to criticism and like folding it in. That being said, they still ended it with the relay, but the relay felt a lot more fair than the relay that happened at the Retro World Expo.
Cool.
And also Will, you know, because he gets name checked a bunch this episode because he was on last week's episode, and I just forget how much of a part of this family he really is.
I never forget, Will.
No, I never forget Will, but you know, it's not. I'm not talking to him weekly like I talk to you.
Commas
weekly.
are important.
Yeah. I talk to Will daily using like about our own stupid stuff, but like. I forget that he's part of Say Report, but he is a big part of Say Report. He says goodbye to the people every week. And I told him again what happened, and he said, well, you know, like every sporting event sort of does that. Just because you're the best team in the regular doesn't mean that you get like pull off in the playoffs and are automatically a winner. And it was a nice perspective push. So I kind of feel like the 2006 Patriots when it comes to frag events.
Okay.
Because I can get to the big game, but I just can't perform in the big game.
Okay.
I'm being honest.
Yeah, I know you're being honest. You are honestly comparing yourself to the 2006 Patriots.
They had a perfect season, Sejohn, and then they lost it at the end. Is that wrong? Is it a wrong comparison to make? A little bit, yes.
It's not the wrong facts.
It's raisins to watermelons, but they're both technically fruits still.
Okay.
No, but that's and that put it a lot into it put that into perspective for me. So I'm a little like bummed at how I reacted the first time without that like benefit of hindsight and seeing it a couple of times. So like a bit of an apology for any of my reaction to that scenario. I will go ahead and say that as well.
Go back and listen. There were legitimate criticisms as well, but for sure.
But no, and I don't disagree with that. But like I said, a lot of the criticism was taken to heart and it was modified,
Awesome.
and it made the event better. I also think, and I don't feel bad about saying this. A certain individual who was in attendance at those last two events was unable to make it to the event this year. And I think without his negativity, I was able to just be the positive force for video gaming good that I usually can be.
I'm glad that Nega Scott couldn't be there.
Yeah, right? No Nega Scott. Screw that guy. He's a dick. Is that what he says? I think that's what he says in the book or the movie. I haven't experienced Scott Pilgrim. I think I stop at the Roxy scene every time I watch the movie.
That's a shame. But anyway, so you enjoyed Frag.
So I enjoyed Frag, but it also put into perspective exactly why I enjoyed Frag. And that is the fact that the challenges, I call them like arbitrary little challenges, but that's exactly what trophies are in like modern games. And I'll look at like the messenger and it's like, get through this cave in the dark. And that's a ridiculous thing to ask a person to do. But I've done it. And many other people have done it. So a thing like get 40,000 points in the Addams Family for Super Nintendo, that's a pretty ridiculous question to ask people to do when the collectibles give you 10 points and you only are given 3 minutes to get up to that high thing. You need to find like these hidden caches of points. And if you've never played that game or you're still not super familiar with it, it's going to be a bigger challenge for you.
Right.
But with the fact that it wasn't a live system and you could keep playing the game and trying the game, I was able to attempt that game multiple times and eventually get to a point where I could achieve the highest trophy available for that game.
Awesome.
And to the point that today, just for fun, I booted up Addams Family for Super Nintendo to see if I could still do it, if I still had those talents. And I do. And it's still crazy how I got to 40,000 points. And it's something that if I didn't like know about speedrunning games and the ways that like you have to optimize a run, I would have never stumbled upon the exploit that got me my 40,000 points in that competition. And excellent. That is, yeah. So, and that's just, I'm proud of it. Can I explain it to you real quick? You could say no and I won't do it.
No. Let's hear it. So
there's a place where you can get a sword very quickly in the beginning of the Addams Family game. It's like a rapier because, Gomez loves to fence. And then one of the doors in the main foyer of the Addams mansion leads to an old tree where you can fight a baby bird. And when you kill that baby bird, you get 15,000 points and an extra heart.
What?
So the problem with this game, though, is that it doesn't have a save system. It has a password system. So whenever you achieve something in the game that a normal game would save, it pauses the action to bring up a password screen to let you know your password so you can always continue with whatever you just picked up.
Okay.
So because I have speedrun games and I'm familiar with like what speedrunning is to do, that screen, when I only had 3 minutes, upset me to no end. So I kept trying to find exploits. Oh my God. And there's an even easier exploit. I've been making it harder on myself. Sorry. It just occurred to me in relating it to you.
This is how it happens, folks. This is how
the sausage is made. I figured if I can exit the screen where you fight the bird before that password screen comes up, that password screen will never come up, right? Because I'm already like triggering a screen transition.
Okay.
So I eventually was able to kill the bird and trigger the screen transition, which just as of right now, the stuff that happened, I was going for the further door. There's literally a door right below where you fight the bird that would be super easy to get into instead of trying to run back to the beginning of the stage. And I was able to do it one time, like before it triggered that I got that third heart, and I left. And then I looked up and I still only had the 2 hearts. And I'm like, oh, I wonder if I broke the game and I can never get that extra heart now. I have to go check the bird fight again. Right. And lo and behold, the bird was there to fight again. And I still had a rapier. So I fought the bird again, and I got 30,000 points from fighting that bird. So I just had to get it so that I could fight the bird 3 times in 3 minutes and never see that password screen in order to get over 40,000 points.
Man, that feels dirty, Dev. I don't know.
Well, you know what? Well, here's the other thing. I also achieved it not doing that. I achieved it legitimately, one killing the bird and then running to the freezer where I knew there were like 1,000 points hidden on top of snowmen. Like if you jumped on their heads and then held the jump button, you would get up to it.
Nice.
So I got to 40,000 points doing that as well. But then I'm like, I think I could optimize it and do it faster by fighting this bird. Also, I got to 40,000 and the judge was like, it was still at 39 right as the time went out, so you have to do that again. And I'm like, okay. It was counting up when it went out, but okay. And then I'm like, screw it, I'm going to play with this bird.
So if they counted oh my god, it's just the animation of the numbers changing by all this.
Hands
That's
off
upsetting.
the controller. Well, not upsetting. I mean, here's the really like kind of gross thing about that. For a long time, 15,000 points, so killing the bird, equaled 5 out of the possible 10 points for the Addams Family game.
Okay.
And for a long time, just because I played Addams Family one summer, all summer when I was in high school, because I got it from the rental shop and just never returned it.
Nice.
I remembered that where the bird was. And I beat the bird like the slow jumping on its headway and saw that I got 15,000 points for it. And for a real long time, I was the only one who had 5 points and nobody else was breaking 3 points in that game. So it felt like that was the game that all the other competitors, there were 31 other competitors at this event.
Nice. Man.
And so it felt like this was the game that everybody was complaining about, though they should have been complaining about Life Force, because Life Force is a terrible game. I've already built a small armor around me to make sure I don't buy that game. People who listen to the Say Report, don't let me buy Life Force. I cannot stress it enough, because it gets under my skin enough that I want to keep playing it.
Yeah.
But even doing perfect runs of that game through the first 2 levels, I was unable to get more than 5 points out of the possible 10 points in Life Force.
Weird.
And 5 points was getting to 25,000 points. 6 points was getting to 50,000 points.
So did you see anybody do better?
The highest score that got there, someone got to 7 points in that game. I don't know how. I don't know what they possibly could have done. But like, I had a perfect run through the first 2 levels with all of the power-ups collected, and then still like died before I was at 49,000 points when I died.
Man, that's this is just nuts to me.
I know, and I understand it, but like a lot of the other like that, and there always has to be that game that's like kind of crazy impossible. And for most people, it was Addams Family. The only reason it wasn't Addams Family for me is because I was familiar with it.
Yeah.
That's it. And just like playing the game and learning the game, even as I was there attempting to get points in the game, was huge for me.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It was the event was run better. Specifically because we also talked about, like some cheating that went on because people used codes. It specifically said at Life Force, no usage of the Konami code.
Nice.
So I'm like, good. That's good. I'm glad that like, if there are people who are going to approach it like Thomas Jefferson and say, if it's not written there, it's not illegal, then we need to, make the Constitution more clear the constitution of the rules of this retro game competition.
You are just going real big on the hyperbole this week. I like it.
But that's not hyperbolic. It's to say it's a perfect 1-to-1 example of how the Constitution was interpreted.
The rules for this frag event and the writing of the Constitution, a 1-for-1 comparison.
A 1-for-1 comparison. But yeah, so it was a real fun event. I ended up getting 95 out of a possible 100 points.
Nice.
In the preliminary stuff. And then I just beefed it in the finals and wound up in third place. Like, hardcore. The final challenge was a battle round in Mario Kart 64. I got in control of my guy, drove off the side, and was just out of it. Oh. Right off the edge of the skyscraper.
Ouch. Oh, man.
But hey, I had a great time. All my friends from Connecticut were there, and we had a good time laughing. One of them, Laura, she did not compete in the Retro Gaming Challenge, but they did have set up an NES Mini, and she beat Kirby's Adventure. And it was the anniversary of the first Kirby's game coming out, too. So, like, it felt thematically accurate and awesome. So we all had a good time. Dale caught 2 shiny Pokemon, because she got her score and was like, I'm good with my score. I don't want to play these games anymore. I'm going to go shiny hunting in Pokemon. But it was a perfect game, just full of video games and laughter and positive vibes.
Cool.
But don't let me buy Life Force.
Understood.
Because even today, with the Konami code and a perfect playthrough of the first 2 levels, the Konami code, just for the record, has the same effect as Contra and gives you 30 lives. I could not get past the point where I continued to die when I only had 3 lives to play.
Oh, man.
Because the third level is just such a jump in difficulty. And then you only have 3 continues, but it doesn't tell you that you only have 3 continues. You just continue 3 times, and then after that, when you die all your lives, it brings you back to the title screen. Like, without warning.
Oh, man, this game is pissing you off so much, I hesitate to say you'll never own it.
I know. Well, like, emulators are out there, right? And as long as I don't press down and select at the same time, everything will be all right in the end. But yeah, so it was a good event. I would like to also give a shout out to Frag for running a very good event, and to thank all the volunteers and stuff who refereed and made sure that it went off as well as it did. Because especially since I've been critical of it in the past, I want to say it's nice to see that, you know, that criticism was listened to, and that the event is ever growing and evolving to be the most fun that it can be.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you mentioned that, like, it was a good day of just hanging out with friends and playing video games, because we talked last time so much about nostalgia and about, like, what are these events supposed to be? Are these historical things? Are these, you know, and I think that finding its footing firmly in the we're an event for people to remember and to have some fun together is a good step to take, and it's really cool that they're finding themselves and getting this shit sorted out. That's always awesome,
dude. And I think just the thing, like, I've been trying to get into some of the communities with the games that I enjoy, but, like, I'm a face-to-face lover. Let's be completely honest. I do not work that well on a computer screen. I talk too much because I have a lot to say, and when I'm talking, I can engage you. When I'm writing it out, I look like a psychopath who had a dream about the craziest stuff that I had to share with my family in text messages this morning. Apologies. But sitting there with the other 2 finalists, as it's like, I'm pretty sure that we're the 3 finalists, and having a conversation and seeing, you know, that we're all, you know, in our early 30s, and how we came to gaming and how it's still a part of our lives. One of them, he's a fighting game tournament guy, and it was a fighting game tournament where he found out about the Frag event. The other guy had been at Retro World Expo, competed only that second day, and then he's like, I didn't have anything to do, so I drove down. And he was from New York State. So, like, that's a bigger travel than me from Rhode Island to Connecticut. So it's cool that, like, they're appealing to people who love games, and that this community can grow in a face-to-face environment, especially as the world is turning more towards the internet for social interaction.
Oh man.
Sorry,
No, no,
it
no,
was
no, no.
real good. I'm still real hyped about it, and that
Makes me feel
makes
good
me
about the
happy.
world.
Yeah.
Yeah, considering we've had a couple of very negative episodes lately. I'm very happy to get back to the happy.
Yeah. What other negative episodes?
Things have not been going great in the world. We have not shied away from talking about how things have not been
That's
going great
very
in the world.
true. Yeah, but positivity. That's what the show is all about, or that's what the show has tried to be about. Even as we look at the more negative sectors of the world, which brings us to, unless you have something else to add, may I drum roll, please? Can I have the envelope, Samuel? Samuel, the envelope. We have this intern, Samuel. I just made him up right now.
Good, because I was telling you, I don't think we got money for Samuel. I'm glad that he's not real.
Oh, he'll be real when it's like inopportune for us. No, I think we just gotta sign like a form and he gets college credit, right? Interns.
Shh, yes, exactly that. He doesn't need to know.
Oh, okay. So Samuel has just given me the envelope, and ladies and gentlemen, we are T-minus 2 days away from my favorite time of year, Brendan Fraser History Month.
Yeah, here we go.
And we are going to reveal to you now the movies that we're going to be, the movies and entertainment that Brenny Fraser has been involved in.
Because we don't plan much for this show, but we plan this.
So that you can go out and watch these so that you're prepared for our discussions honoring this just ball of positivity of a man.
I thought you were about to make a bald joke, and I was going to get very angry.
No, I would never make a bald joke. I will make a joke about the fact that his hairstyle totally inspired the hairstyle of every character based on him. Freddie Prinze Jr. is rocking the Brendan Fraser bowl cut in Boys and Girls. And it was just like distracting. Especially as he's talking to Claire Forlani, who's dating a London brother in Mallrats.
Oh, God.
Super distracting. But without any further ado, on our May 6th episode, 1 week from this release, we're going to be covering Inkheart. And that's only because it's been sitting on my DVR for 14 months, and I was told, watch it or I'm just going to delete it.
I have never seen that movie outside of a bus traveling to, like, a band event.
Excellent.
It was on like 5 or 6 times in my youths as I traveled on like buses in various directions, but I've never actually sat down and watched that movie.
So it should be fun for Sejohn to revisit it in a non-mobile vehicle, and
we'll
for
see
me
how
to
I
watch
watch
it for the first time.
You don't know how I'm gonna watch it.
You're gonna get like an Uber van that has the DVD player in it. If you could just drive around for an hour and 30 minutes, that'd be cool. You're getting 5 stars.
Yes.
Uber pool, so that people kept dropping in and out. It was fun. So May 6th, Inkheart. May 13th, this is totally inspired by Sejohn and the fact that he's not wrong. It is Space Jam 2. We're going to watch Looney Tunes Back in Action.
And we'll talk about exactly what I meant, like why I got rattled about that, because it's a funny joke and all, but in all seriousness, we need to discuss this weird ass movement out there for a demand for Space Jam 2.
Right. And I saw it and I'm like, he's not wrong. I don't understand why people want a Space Jam 2 so much. I also don't understand why they want it to be LeBron as Michael Jordan as much as they do.
Yeah, we're gonna talk.
Look forward to a very sports-intensive episode as we discuss Looney Tunes Back in Action on May 13th, which will then bring us to May 20th, where we will watch Journey to the Center of the Earth. Now, I wanted to watch Journey 2 because it's all the benefits of Journey to the Center of the Earth, but then Sejohn reminded me that Brendan Fraser isn't in that one.
Yeah, no, the whole reason we need to watch it is because...
So we'll be watching Journey to the Center of the Earth, a movie I bought because they said there were going to be sequels to those movies that have just never happened. So I'm very excited to get to watch those again.
Well, what's the big news, Dev?
But the big news is that the DC streaming service, assuming it finishes out, right? Assuming it doesn't like shut down tomorrow.
It's already been filmed. It's good to go.
That doesn't mean that they're not going to shut down the servers for
the
DC
service.
streaming.
Yeah, that's a whole other problem. Yeah.
You don't know that. It's been shot and we're going to sell it to you on DVD. Thanks for playing, because it's not fiscally viable to keep it going another month. Oh my God, I don't want this to happen. I don't want to have called this into existence.
It's not going to happen.
Doom Patrol, featuring Brendan Fraser as Robot Man, will be airing its last episode on May 24th.
Which means the gods smiled down upon our celebration and said, "This gift is for you."
The gods won. The monsters, they failed. So we will be discussing in depth on May 27th the final episode of Brendan Fraser History Month, Doom Patrol, and Brendan Fraser's, contribution to that and the series as a whole. So this is your call to arms. Watch Inkheart, Looney Tunes Back in Action, Journey to the Center of the Earth, and Doom Patrol if you want to be able to follow along. And remember, you can't follow along if you don't buy a program. And I've also reached out to other friends of the Say Report. Hopefully we can get at least 1 or 2 quizzes done with the quiz master himself, Will.
Nice.
So we'll see what happens there. But it is Brendan Fraser History Month in 2 days.
We should cook something up with the juniors too. No promises on that front, but putting that out there.
Oh yeah, no, don't worry. I mean, I'll put it into business. The problem is we're working on something else with the juniors. And I don't know if and when that's going to happen. So it's going to be a busy Brendan Fraser month, and I could not be happier.
Yeah, man.
Assuming this couple of airheads can, pull it together.
Nice. All right, man. I think that brings us to the end.
That does bring us to the end. So if you want to talk to me, if you want me to talk to you about the dream I had last night and how it was sort of like Hollywood high school, you can find me on Twitter at Devon D. Decker.
And if there was some huge life-changing cultural event this week that we for some reason didn't talk about, hit me up at Siege versus the World.
You'd really say your life was changed?
But yeah, we still haven't recorded things. But the I don't know, man. What's left to do? I think
it's to throw to Will before we ruin any more of the surprise. Thanks for listening, everybody. See you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Say Report with your host Devon Decker and Sejohn Serwick. Please follow the guys on Twitter and Facebook by searching for The Say Report, and you can always subscribe on your podcast channel so this is delivered straight to you and you can enjoy it every week. With apologies to your mother, we'll see you next time.